Firstly, I'd just like to use this opportunity to thank you for choosing Cheshire Barbell to help you along your way with achieving your goals. This short video has just been put together to help provide you with some initial information and help you understand what you need to know before you start working with us and how to use some of our various systems, including our check-ins, our meal planners, and our training programs. Within the next few days, you're going to receive a number of documents. The first one likely to be titled Your Initial Guide to Success. Now this information, this document is rather self-explanatory, it's quite simple. I'm going to leave you to read that in your own time. That's not the purpose of this video. My initial comments within this video are largely going to be down to communication between you and I. So in order for this system, in order for this plan to work, in order for you to achieve your goal, regardless of whether you're working with us online or on a one-to-one basis, it's really, really important that communication levels between the two of us remain extremely high. Anybody can write a really good training program. You know, a lot of people can do the research, a lot of people can do a lot of reading around topics such as strength training, speed training, power training, plyometrics, the right conditioning, determining work to rest ratios between that which you're doing in the gym or outside of. That information is readily accessible to everybody, and in that case you can write your own programs. The difference between that and a program that actually works is having somebody make the necessary interventions that it takes in order to ensure that you progress from one week to the next. And that's where the true art of program writing comes. That's my job. That's only made possible though if I receive the relevant information from you on a regular basis. Now, depending on the package that you have chosen, that might be consisting of a check-in on a weekly basis, twice a week, or even once a month. The information that you provide me is going to be really, really helpful, whether your goal is concerning body composition, improvements in your physique, or whether it's down to, I don't know, competing in an event. So whilst you are going to have the opportunity to send me emails outside of your check-ins, the two primary forms of communication that you're going to have with myself are going to be through the forum and also within the weekly check-in form that is available through the clients-only area on the Cheshire Barbell website. The forum is there for you to ask and in fact answer any questions that you may have or even have the answers to. Now, this is an opportunity for you to learn from others, for you to learn from me, and in fact possibly people to learn from you as well. The forum is going to be largely run through Facebook and social media platforms such as that. You've got the opportunity to ask any questions that you have, whether it be regarding to meal prep, whether it be regarding training, anything for that matter. And there's a very good possibility that a question that you have may have been asked before, and I've provided the answer to that. So it's a possibility that other people within the Cheshire Barbell community may answer that question. The check-in forms are formatted and structured in a way that provide me with the information that I need from you in order to make the necessary interventions to your training and nutrition program. Not every single question has to be or even can be answered because some of those questions may or may not apply to you. All I expect is that you do these on a regular basis and that you answer them in as much detail as you physically can. They're not there to add any form of additional stress to your program. I'm completely aware that people have jobs and lives outside of the gym and outside of those training goals that you may have. However, I must stress the importance of completing them in detail. One thing that I'm going to add to this is that I will not chase you if you fail to complete the check-in forms as regularly as I ask. It's totally up to you. One thing that I will add to this is that I will not come chasing you if you fail to complete the check-in forms. It's totally up to you as to what day you complete them. I'm not going to give you a specific day. I'm not going to ask you to do them every Sunday, for example. I would simply like you to complete them in the frequency that is determined by the package that you've opted for. As I've stressed, again, I will not come chasing you, so please Do not expect interventions to be made regularly to your training programs or nutrition plans should you fail to communicate with me on such a frequent basis. I'm sure that you can understand that it's almost impossible for me to make the necessary interventions to your training and nutrition plan if I don't know whether it's working or not. So moving on to your training program. Many people can write the best training program in the world, but in my opinion, a training program is only as good as the person's ability to follow it, okay? I might be able to write a program that for one person is perfect, but for you that may not be the case. And that might be down to the certain adaptations that your body physiologically will adhere to, or in addition, it might just be down to the frequency. Now, whilst I could write a training program that might be optimal towards somebody that can train 6 or 7 times a week, if that's impossible for you to sustain, if that's impossible for you to do, then it isn't a good training program. So it's very, very important that, again, going back to the information with regards to communication and feedback in your check-in forms, if you physically cannot follow your training program for any reason whatsoever, it's important that you let me know. Now, that's not an excuse just because you miss 1 or 2 training sessions in a week because you've been busy for you to expect me then to reduce your training load and volume, because life has a pretty good way of planning for us. There are times in a week, in a month, in a year where things happen, the inevitable happens, you get stuck in traffic, perhaps a meeting runs on longer than what you thought it would do, and as a result of that you can't train for as long as what you'd initially planned to. These things happen, and the odd time here and there isn't going to have a substantial effect on your progress, your performance, and you getting closer towards your ultimate goal. However, I'm talking frequency, I'm talking your ability to follow your training program over a period of weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, maybe 3 months, okay? This brings me on to the subject of consistency. Now, there's going to be a reason why I prescribe you the number of sets, reps, at the particular intensity, as well as rest periods that I do within your training program. If you aren't following that to the letter, then how do I know once again that it's working or not? How are you going to adapt to a stimulus that you should be exposed to on a regular basis if you're not following your program how it's written? For example, there's a reason why I'm asking you to have perhaps 90 seconds rest in between each set of a particular exercise. If you feel that it's necessary to have more than that, maybe you're spending time on your phone or chatting to others in the gym, then we're not going to see a true representation as to how that program would have impacted on your physique or performance should you have followed it in the first place. So that I do ask you to follow to your program to the letter. Doing so will allow me to measure whether your program is working, which will then therefore allow me to make the necessary interventions to make sure that you progress the following week or month or training cycle. Okay, so food. After working in this industry for many years and working with hundreds and hundreds of people, I've kind of established multiple ways of working, multiple methods of getting a good nutrition plan to you. Now, these methods vary from person to person. Some people prefer meal plans and instructions in black and white that are there to follow. Other people prefer a little bit of flexibility whilst being educated on how to make their own meal plans work for themselves. Now, in my opinion, a meal plan by default is not sustainable. Being given instructions in black and white, explaining what you need to do however many times a day across a 7-day period might be all well and good initially, but after following this meal plan for, let's say, 5 to 7 days, it becomes completely unsustainable. Now, let's just say it's a Sunday evening, for example, all the shops are shut. You go to cook your food for the following day and realize that you're missing a number of ingredients. You can't go to the shop. You can't just go around the corner to a shop that what was 24 hours, it's now going to be closed. You can't get those eggs, for example, to make for your breakfast. And it's human nature to then therefore think, do you know, sod it, I'll start again on Tuesday, or I'll start again next week. So as a result, you will not follow your program. Another example of this would be for, let's say, me, okay? Nobody knows me like I do. Yet tomorrow, I might not be desiring the foods that I've written in my own meal plan, okay? Everybody is different, and if I don't know what I'm gonna be craving or desiring tomorrow, how do I know what you're gonna want? That's the point. The whole idea of a sustainable meal plan is one that you can follow, and you're not going to follow a meal plan that consists of foods that you simply do not want. So in addition to writing meal plans, I have tried before of just simply providing advice via the use of food diaries. Now, a food diary is ultimately a method where you would provide me with a detailed list of foods that you've eaten and when you've eaten them across the course of a week. And ultimately, it would then be my job to advise you on what you did correct and what you did incorrectly. Now, for me, it's not accurate enough. I tend to find that a lot of people underreport what they actually consume. So straight away, a food diary is not very accurate. In addition, from my point of view, it's very easy for me to jump and highlight those bad foods that you've consumed that ultimately might not be the overall biggest issue, when in fact the biggest issue might be the quantity of those that you've consumed. And with a food diary, you don't tend to measure food quantity, it tends to just be the actual ingredients themselves. So I'm not a huge fan of food diaries either. Now, the method that I use now is one that's tried and tested, and it is subject to change, but the way in which I work is that I now provide you with a meal planner, okay? And this meal planner provides you with a template of a prescribed intake of food. Now, this is going to come in the form of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, fiber, and therefore calories. You can use this meal planner to, one, create your own, okay? It works as a food diary, so I get to see the quantities of what ingredients you're consuming on a daily basis. And it also allows me to make amendments to your program too, so that you can almost use that as a pre-written meal plan. You'll notice that within the meal planner, I've got a color-coded system that provides you with a food database of ingredients that are highlighted in white, in yellow, and in red. Ultimately, the white foods are those which I want to make up the most, if not the entire meal plan that you're about to follow, because these are foods that are nutritious, dense in very good nutrients and good proteins and good fats and good carbohydrates. But they're also easy to digest. They're not necessarily tough on our gut to break down and utilize. This, on the other hand, is where yellow foods come in. Now, these might not necessarily be seen as unhealthy foods, but they're options that I don't want you to consume on a regular basis, because these are ingredients which may be quite harsh on your gut to break down. They may cause fermentation. In some people, you may be more sensitive to them, and therefore almost experience symptoms such as bloating, water retention, and other very, very common symptoms that people almost experience on a daily basis, but completely disregard as being related to food intake. You've then got red items, and these items are ones that I probably don't want you to have very often at all. In fact, the rule is that you're only allowed one red item, especially post-workout only. And these are foods that are deemed as unhealthy. That might be anything ranging from chocolate to crisps to sugary foods to unhealthy snacks. And the reason why I've included them in the meal plan is because I believe that the key to a sustainable diet is ultimately an enjoyable one, and one that isn't extreme. So by providing you with these red foods, it ultimately makes your meal plan more sustainable, more enjoyable, and therefore more successful. I must stress that if you can, it's really important that you try to follow a meal plan that consists of only white foods. If you need to, have by all means 2 yellow foods per day. And ideally, I would like you to cut all red foods out completely. But I know that this is unrealistic. So try to minimize these as much as you can. At worst, post-workout on training days only. That's 1 red item. So there are many, many diets out there, many diets that exist. And I think this really does cause a lot of confusion amongst people as to which diet is the right one. Now, I've already mentioned that a sustainable one is the best one, etc. But what I'm talking about now is, are high carb diets better than low fat diets? Are low fat diets not as good as low carbohydrate diets, for example? Is fat good for you? What about high protein? What about low protein? Now, although this might sound not that in-depth of an answer, as well as the best diet being one that you can follow, it's also dependent on you and how you adapt to the foods that you eat also. Yes, there are positives to having a high-fat, low-carb diet. Yes, there are positives to having a high-carb, low-fat diet. Yes, there are positives to certain fiber and protein intakes dependent on the size of your body, your gender, your training frequency, and so on. But ultimately, it takes time to determine what diet is best for you. And that's my job. Now, the meal plan that I provide you from the onset will be, let's say, as scientifically backed as possible. Okay, it's going to be very nutrient dense. It's going to be in favor of supporting your goals to begin with based on what I have learned and read in my time in this industry. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely right for you. You've got to almost give me a little time to get to know you that little more so I can understand what diet, what approach works best for you as an individual. Now, if your goal is fat loss, for example, then the ultimate factor that determines the success of that diet, the ultimate key, is that the number of calories that you're consuming are less than you are utilizing during a day. Conversely, if your primary goal is to build muscle mass, then you need to consume more calories than you are burning. And again, this takes time to establish because, again, everybody's different. No formula, no mathematical equation, no internet-based spreadsheet is going to be able to calculate exactly how many calories you as an individual needs. This takes time. And once we have established how many calories you need, this is then when we can get clever. It's my job then to determine how much protein you need, how much fats you need, how much carbs you need, how much fiber you need to get the results that you ultimately want. Once we've established how many calories you need for your goal, it just opens a complete world of possibilities with regards to what we can do with your nutrition plan. Some people really do work well on a very, very high fat diet. Some people don't, and some people prefer to be on a very, very high carb diet with low fats. Some people work better on a balanced ratio of carbs, fats, and proteins. This, I can't give you the answer at this stage. You have to give me time to determine what it is that works best for you. And this ultimately boils down to your consistency and your communication. If you don't follow the initial plan that I give you, I don't know whether it's worked or not. I can't, again, make the necessary interventions nor decide what I believe is best for you in the following weeks. If I don't receive check-ins from you, if I don't get any communication from you, I don't know whether you've been following your plan. Nor do I once again understand whether what I have given you in the previous week or month, know whether it's worked for you at all. So my main point here is follow the plan that I've provided you with, be consistent, communicate with me, and I will do the rest. I'm going to finish with this. Ultimately, I'm here to help, and it's really important that you provide me with the information that I need in order to help you. I need you to help me help you, if that makes sense. So utilize the forum, send me emails, use the check-in forms. Now bear in mind that yes, there is a time in which I will get back to you. I can't reply to every message every day because the amount of people that I work with plus other jobs that I have in and around the industry determine that I have put a minimum contact time of 48 hours on emails and texts and so on. So utilize those services, contact others via the forum, use your check-in forms, actually think about your training and nutrition. How has it gone? How has the week gone? Be honest with yourself. Actually establish in your mind whether things have gone well or things haven't. Use that information and provide it to me so that I can do my job properly and help you achieve the goal that you've always wanted. Once again, thank you so much for choosing Cheshire Barbell and myself to help you establish and achieve your goals. You will get there, I assure you that, if you do everything that I've asked you to within this video.